Number 8. KATARINA MOLLER. In November of 2018, driver KATARINA MOLLER died during an exhibition race at Florida's Sebring International Raceway. During the event, the 24-year-old was making her first run in a jet dragster. Moller's vehicle was seen drifting from the left and to the center line. It then struck a timing device located between the lanes at the finish line. A piece of debris from the device struck Moller in the helmet, killing her instantly. The vehicle kept going after its parachute was deployed. It scraped a wall and came to a stop after hitting a tire barrier. When news of the accident broke, there was an outpouring of condolences for the young woman who'd been racing since she was 11 years old. Drag racing is believed to have originated in the United States in the 1930s as a form of motor racing. In the early days, races were carried out on dry lake beds in Southern California. Automobile writer Wally Parks is credited as the man who legitimized the activity as a motorsport. In 1951, he founded the National Hot Rod Association, or NHRA, which would become one of the largest governing bodies in motor racing. A hot rod, according to one common definition, is a vehicle that's been modified for maximum acceleration and speed. Drag racing typically involves 2 or more drivers taking a standing start side by side. They race for a quarter of a mile or for 1,000 feet in some cases on a flat, straight course. Achieving a good launch as well as proper shifting and control of the vehicle are key elements towards crossing the finish line first. Throughout the years, dragsters have become increasingly more powerful, leaving drivers with less room for error. In the professional ranks, a number of crashes have been recorded, some of which have had fatal outcomes. Number 7. Eric MEDLEN. In 2007, Eric MEDLEN was in a test session at the Gainesville Raceway in Florida. It was during this session that his funny car exhibited the most violent tire shake ever witnessed in a vehicle of its class. MEDLEN lost consciousness as his head was brutally smashed from side to side into the car's roll bars. The car then careened off track and crashed into a wall. MEDLEN succumbed to his extensive brain injuries in a hospital. One safety expert argued that he was basically shaken to death. A deflating tire had caused an 18-inch up and down oscillation. As a result, MEDLEN's body was subjected to forces of roughly 40,000 pounds, greater than those in the deepest parts of the ocean. Number 6. Darrell Russell. During a 2004 NHRA event at the Gateway International Raceway in St. Louis, drag racer Darrell Russell suffered a fatal accident. Russell's dragster broke up right after he'd crossed the finish line. One of his Goodyear tires blew out, destroying a portion of the dragster's rear in the process. The tire explosion launched shrapnel through the cockpit, inflicting severe damage on the vehicle's driver. Russell was unconscious, but still breathing when NHRA emergency services extracted him from the dragster. He died in a hospital as a consequence of massive head trauma. Gateway named one of its grandstands the Darrell Russell Stand in honor of the man who in 2001 had been named the NHRA Rookie of the Year. When it comes to competitive formats, drag racing has a presence in many countries all over the world. In North America, aside from the NHRA, another major overseeing body is the International Hot Rod Association. Drag racing was brought to Europe by American NATO troops during the Cold War. Races were initially taking place on strips at various air bases in the UK and West Germany. In 1966, Europe's first permanent drag strip was opened at the Santa Pod Raceway in England. While illegal races had taken place before, Russia sanctioned drag racing as an official motorsport after it grew in popularity with the release of the Fast and the Furious movie. Nowadays, competitive drag racing has hundreds of classes, each with their own rules and restrictions. The classes vary, among many others, according to the weight, engine size, modifications, or body style of the vehicle. Top Fuel Dragster is the fastest class, and it contains vehicles fueled by methanol with up to 90% nitromethane, built specifically for outstanding acceleration. The Top Fuel Funny Car class features vehicles with a shorter wheelbase and a carbon fiber body that somewhat resembles production automobiles. Pro stock cars are often described as all-motor, and don't use any form of forced induction such as turbocharging, supercharging, or other implements like nitrous oxide. Number 5. Blaine Johnson. By the time he was 34 years old, Blaine Johnson held a record of 26 NHRA titles in the alcohol division. It's a class in which supercharged cars capable of about 3,500 brake horsepower burn methanol. In 1994, however, Johnson got his competition license for the top fuel class. This meant that he would drive cars that were more powerful. In 1996, Johnson suffered a fatal accident during the NHRA US Nationals, held at the Indianapolis Raceway Park. As he reached the finish line, Johnson's engine exploded and debris cut through his rear tires. The thick rubber unraveled and sheared off the dragster's rear wing, which affected the aerodynamic downforce at the rear. Johnson consequently lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a guardrail at roughly 300 miles per hour. The vehicle was heavily damaged and Johnson was rushed to a hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Number 4. Michelle "Shelly" Howard. Michelle "Shelly" Howard had 27 years of drag racing experience when she took her top alcohol dragster for a practice run at the Tulsa Raceway Park in April of 2005. The 59-year-old woman, a 3-time national event winner, had gotten off to a good start. About halfway into the quarter mile, the nose of her dragster got airborne. It then turned 180 degrees in the air and came down hard, likely knocking Howard unconscious. The vehicle ended up facing the starting line, and as it landed back onto the surface, it started to accelerate again. It headed towards the starting line at an estimated speed of 250 miles per hour. The dragster collided with the team's tow vehicle, which was parked behind the line. Howard's 36-year-old son Brian was sitting inside the cab at the time. Shelly and Brian lost their lives almost simultaneously in the violent collision. The incident is remembered as one of the most tragic freak accidents in the history of drag racing. A top-fuel dragster accelerates faster than any other racing car in the world. From a standstill, it can go to 100 miles per hour in under a second. The driver is subjected to about 5 times the force of gravity. The fastest competitors can reach speeds of up to 335 miles per hour. To put such a staggering figure into perspective, it's almost twice as fast as an AH-64 Apache helicopter. Top fuel and funny car dragsters actually deploy 1 or 2 specialized parachutes to decelerate past the finish line. Considering the speeds that these machines are capable of, any driving error can result in a deadly fiery crash. One injury commonly associated with fatal incidents is a basilar skull fracture, which is a break of a bone at the base of the skull. It's not only the driver's responsibility, as the dragster itself has to be kept in proper form. A number of reported crashes have been attributed to mechanical problems. Statistically, drag racing is among the most dangerous motorsports. Between 2005 and 2009, there were an estimated 44 fatalities reported at NHRA-sanctioned events in the US. Number 3. Ronnie Davis. In April of 2016, Ronnie Davis suffered critical injuries during his qualifying run for a race at Rockingham Dragway in North Carolina. He'd taken just over 4 seconds to reach the end of the strip, which he crossed at 178 miles per hour. Davis's car then careened to the left and crashed into the guardrail. The impact caused the vehicle to barrel roll uncontrollably. Davis was rushed to a hospital in Pinehurst and was afterwards transferred to a medical center in Chapel Hill, where he was pronounced dead. Today's topic was requested by Instagram follower Who Ate My Steakums. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below, or follow us on Instagram and reach out to us there. Number 2. Pete Robinson. Drag racer Pete Robinson was involved in one of the first fatal accidents to be recorded by the top fuel division. It happened during the 1971 NHRA Winter Nationals. Robinson had installed an air scoop under the rear wheels of his vehicle as he crossed the finish line at about 200 miles per hour. The air scoop tore loose and he lost control of the dragster. The chassis twisted and the front tires became separated from their rims. The dragster then struck a guardrail and broke apart. Robinson was taken out of the wreck with massive head, neck, and spine injuries. He died in a hospital 6 hours later. Professional drag racers are well aware of the motorsport's dangers and take several steps towards ensuring their safety. Generally, the more powerful their car is, the more safety protocols are required. For top fuel dragsters, some of them include a full-body fire suit, on-board fire extinguishers, and full-face helmets with specialized restraints to protect the head and neck. The gloves, socks, and shoes are all made from fire-resistant materials. Blankets made of Kevlar or other bulletproof materials are placed around clutch assemblies and superchargers to contain parts in the eventuality of an explosion. Protective roll cages and 5-point belt harnesses are also fundamental implements. Beyond the safety equipment, surviving a drag race is highly dependent on the risks each driver is willing to take. This is why it's advisable for amateurs to practice extensively at local tracks before entering competitions. Number 1. Scott KALITTA. On June the 21st of 2008, Scott KALITTA was racing in the final qualifying round for the NHRA Super Nationals at Old Bridge Township Raceway Park in New Jersey. As KALITTA was approaching the finish line at about 300 miles per hour, his engine burst into flames. The explosion had damaged the parachutes of his funny car. When the parachutes were deployed, they failed to slow down the vehicle. KALITTA managed to maintain control of the dragster throughout the shutdown portion of the strip until it reached the end of the paved racetrack. The vehicle struck the runoff area at about 125 miles per hour and went over the concrete retaining wall. It carried its momentum and crashed into a piece of heavy equipment which had been positioned in the runoff area by a television crew. The impact completely dismantled the vehicle and ended KALITTA's life. The accelerometer on his dragster showed that he'd been exposed to forces in excess of 200 G. Experts have argued that experiencing merely 14 G of lateral acceleration could tear a person's organs loose from each other. Thanks for watching. Would you rather drive a top fuel dragster in a race or experience zero gravity? Let us know in the comments section below.